Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
All right, welcome back to today's show. On this episode, we have a very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Keyrouz.
How are you today?
Not too bad in yourself.
Doing good. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the fitness world?
So I'm an IFBB. Let me start again. So I'm an IFBB Pro female physique bodybuilder, as well as being a power lifter. And then I dabbled in CrossFit and I'm the top 10 in the world, and now I'm doing calisthenics. So I've been around the world and back again.
Very cool. So, um, as far as getting into the fitness industry and the bodybuilding side of things, how did that come about for you?
So I actually was severely unhealthy and underweight. I weighed 38 kilograms and was recovering from cancer. And I just decided, after getting the all clear that I was healthy, that I needed to change my life around because I was one of those people who never exercised, never lifted, ate like crap. Like, my diet consisted of one tub of KFC and that was my meal for the day. So I needed to change my life and just decided, one day that I needed to start training and started with bodyweight exercises and cleaned up my diet and kind of went from there.
What was that transition like to go from being unhealthy to starting to lift weights and become healthier?
I mean, it was a bit of an adjustment because obviously I didn't know what I was doing. So there was a very, very, very long period of time where I kind of just played around with exercising. My goal at the beginning was just to do a pull up. And that was kind of like my first ever goal was let me do a pull up. And, that took a few months. And because I was so underweight, it was one of those let me put on some muscle and get my weight back to, healthy body frame. So it was one of those, it was quite a slow adjustment. And I had all the wrong ideas of diet when I started because I never had a coach. I always self-taught, self-trained myself. So there was a lot of trial and error along the way of figuring out what was actually good and what was bad and what was, you know, um, lies and fairy tales and that sort of thing. So in the beginning, I didn't eat any red meat for like 2 years. I didn't eat any red meat. Which means now that I struggle to eat like rare steak, which used to be a favorite of mine, because of the texture, because obviously, there were so many misconceptions about diet and red meat and that sort of thing. So it's been a huge learning curve, but I think in many ways it was better for me to do it that way because now I have a far better understanding of my body in particular, and I've learned a lot along the way.
Yeah, and I can understand that, trying to figure out what works for you and how you can start to build the muscle and get the definition you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an exciting road, but it does take a lot of time, and something like bodybuilding is one of those, it takes years to see progress, and to stay with that motivation, because it's not motivation at the end of the day, it's discipline. You've got to become disciplined and create habits that you can sustain long term rather than being constantly motivated, because you're not constantly motivated, you're having to rely on the aspect of discipline to get you through. But it's one of those things that obviously in the beginning I was constantly seeing changes because I was underweight, and I had never lifted weights and I had never trained before in my life. So, going from not being able to do a push up to being able to do a ladies push up to being able to do a full push up, from not being able to do a pull up to elastic band training, and that sort of thing. There were constant little goals that I hit, which kept me motivated, especially in the beginning. And I think that's the thing to look at, is not necessarily your physique, because you won't notice the changes in your body. It takes, I think it's like 3 months for you to actually notice any changes within your physique. Obviously, it varies from person to person, but you see your body every single day, so you're not going to notice the changes. And so relying on visual changes as your only cue for motivation is a lot harder than relying on goals, physical goals, like doing a push up and doing a pull up, because those you can actually appreciate. And then along the way, you get the physical goals as well. So I think I was blessed in the beginning, because my goals, because I didn't know anything about bodybuilding, I didn't have any aesthetic goals. I didn't go like, oh, I want to look like this person, because I didn't know anyone or anything about bodybuilding, and I didn't have that knowledge. It was only like a year in before I actually really started investigating bodybuilding as a sport itself. Before that, it was just, the physical aspect of training and getting stronger and getting healthier than necessarily competing. Though I did start competing, I think 6 months into my what would you say, my journey. Yeah.
So as far as your journey from bodybuilding into the IFBB world, was that super difficult or was that an easy transition?
I think it was a relatively easy transition, because I started competing, as I said, 6 months into my training. So, and my first competition, I came third. I was in bikini though. So the second year, so I started competing in 2014. 2015, I went all in. Like, I'm one of those, like, 100% committed, I'll give everything. And from the word go, it was kind of like, okay, I want to reach the top. I want to be at the top, the pinnacle of bodybuilding, because I am a very competitive person by nature. So from the word go, it was, I want to be the best that I can possibly be. And for me, that meant an IFBB pro level physique. Had not anticipated it to be in women's physique. I had, because I started in bikini, so my goal had been bikini, and remained bikini for the first 2 years before I eventually succumbed and said, "Oh well, I can't do bikini anymore. I've literally kicked myself out of bikini," and that's when it became women's physique that I focused on.
And it's very interesting to see because if you look at the various different competitors that are in that sport, you guys are, of course, everybody's body's different, but you can see how everybody's look is slightly different, and you can see, the dedication that it takes to be able to do that and maintain that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think genetics plays a very big part in what division you ultimately up in. For me, I have quite prominent six pack, and even when I'm off season, 14, 15, 16% body fat, I have quite blocky abs. And that was one of the main reasons I ended up not being able to compete in bikini, because they kept on saying to me, my abs are too visible, my abs are too visible, I'm too hard for that division. So I think genetics does play a huge part, and your discipline level will obviously dictate where you end up.
So as far as the journey that you took to end up where you are now, would you say that it was a enjoyable journey to be able to go from where you were to get healthy, to start to show definition, then to find out that you like competing and end up in the IFBB circuit of things?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you become, or what I certainly did, I did become very, very focused and fixated on the end goal. And You say enjoyable, but I think it's two-sided, because when you're in the moment, you're so fixated on the end goal that you don't necessarily enjoy it in the moment. And that's a sad thing. It's kind of like, when I'm in the moment, I'm not appreciating itself in the moment. And I think that's something that's come with maturity and getting older, is that I can actually enjoy being in the moment and accepting that, things will happen. Whereas when I first started, I think I was so fixated on the end goal that I didn't necessarily enjoy the process. Um, but now looking back, I'm like, yeah, I did enjoy it. And, the thing is, I still love training. And no matter what I compete in, or no matter what my goalpost is, I still absolutely love training. And I think that was my biggest benefit, was the fact that whether I stepped on stage or not, I love training, and that was the most important thing for me.
Where has competing taken you across the world?
So obviously I'm South African, um, born and bred in South Africa, and in order to get my IFBB Pro card, I had to go to the UK because there were no IFBB Pro cards being handed out in South Africa when I was competing. Then they've changed the ruling and whatnot, and with the introduction of the NPC, you can now get your pro card in South Africa. But at the time, I could not, so I ended up competing in the UK in 2018, and I came second, and then went back to the UK in 2019 and got my pro card. And then I also went to America after getting my pro card, with the one sponsorship, just to kind of show face and whatnot. So it has opened up the world in many ways as a result.
And see, that's really cool because then you get to experience different things and the way people do different things as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it is a worldwide sport, or lifestyle, should I rather say, because some people say it's not sport. Um, and definitely the biggest stage is the American stage, by far, 100%. South Africa is small fry compared to the American stage. The UK is okay, but it's still nothing compares to the American stage.
And I honestly think that to be able to see such diversity in that community is amazing because even though there is such diversity, everybody that I've talked to says that even though there's diversity as far as cultures where you come from, everybody kind of gets together and tries to help one another out.
Oh, absolutely. I do think it is a community, and no matter what your social economic background, no matter where you come from, or beliefs or anything, everyone kind of steps together and helps each other out. And that is one of the really nice things, because obviously when I started, I didn't know anything, and there was a lot of support and a lot of help from a lot of different people, and maintained support throughout. So 100% it is a very community orientated, thing, bodybuilding, and that's great. It's really great.
Oh yeah, I mean it's something that you don't really hear a lot of in other sports where the opposite competitor is trying to help you be better. That's not something you hear of a lot.
No, definitely not. I mean, I have been in other sports, powerlifting very supportive as well. But CrossFit I did find not as kind of welcoming, and maybe that's also because I come from bodybuilding, so I've already got a stigma attached to me that wasn't so welcomed within the CrossFit community. But definitely, out of all the sports that I've done, CrossFit has been a very open and welcoming and supportive, no matter whether you're competing with that person or not. Everyone is very supportive, and it's great.
So for most people who don't know, when you go from bodybuilding to physique competitions, and then you have the CrossFit, and then the powerlifting, how different are the trainings for that? And As far as the competitions, are they relatively similar, or are they, widely different?
I think, I mean, they're completely different, and both in training styles, diets, and how your body responds and looks. Obviously, with bodybuilding, it is more of a lifestyle, so it's how you're eating, the 23 hours that you're not in the gym. Your training sessions are obviously short to minimize hypertrophy, maximize hypertrophy, but minimize, too much muscle breakdown. And you're training for like 1 hour, 90 minutes, 5 days a week in order to maximize your growth and focus on purely the aesthetics of how you're looking. So you're designing that body. And then the other hours is controlling the diet aspect of it, getting in enough sleep for recovery. So in many ways, bodybuilding I consider a lifestyle because it is more about your diet than anything else. Yes, in terms of training, most sports use some form of bodybuilding training. So that's not unique, and there's no particular skill set. You're picking up the weight, you're putting it down. You can do it certain ways, but at the end of the day, you're targeting your biceps, you're targeting your triceps. But it's how you can control and maintain that diet in order to get the aesthetics for the stage that matters. Whereas powerlifting, no one cares what you look like. So as long as you're within the weight category that you're going for, that's the only manipulation of diet that is necessary, is making a certain weight. Um, the rest is, rest and recovery and lifting as heavy as possible. So, the hypertrophy numbers really, obviously any number rep range will get you hypertrophy. I mean, science has shown that a 1 to 3 rep range will give you hypertrophy if you do enough sets. Whereas, but bodybuilding obviously tends to be like that 8 to 15 rep range. You're doing 4 sets of 8 to 15 reps of 4 different exercises, and that's what you need to do. Whereas powerlifting, you're doing a maximum of 5 reps. And so you're doing like 5 sets of 5 reps, and sweet, you're done, kind of thing. Going as heavy as possible, you're destroying your central nervous system, and then you're eating as much as possible to recover, without any goal in exactly how you're looking. There's no specific targeted muscle groups, isolation muscle groups, and that sort of thing. Uh, so completely different in that regard. You're going for strength maximally, rather than any form of aesthetics. And then CrossFit is completely different in that it's requiring a bunch of different skill sets. Um, so you're having to do cardio, run, swim, cycle, row, do all the powerlifting moves, as well as the weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, gymnastics. But the skill sets required and the time and dedication is the complete opposite to bodybuilding. With bodybuilding, you're training for 1 hour and then it's all about the diet. Whereas CrossFit, you're training for 8 hours and diet is not as important because you're just eating whatever you want, whatever you can in order to fuel yourself, to sustain yourself for the stupid amounts of training that you're doing. You're doing 8 hours of training a day, so you're eating a shitload of food.
So as far as what the future holds for you, because you are so diverse in what you've done, and do you train people when you're not competing?
Yeah, so I am a person who tells people not to eat cookies all day. Um, so I do personal training and I do content creation. Those are my bread and butter. So that's what I do when I'm not training. But yeah, I focus more on like diet and accountability than necessarily training people, because a lot of people can train, and I do write up diet training programs and goals and that sort of thing. But I think the biggest issue that a lot of people struggle with is the diet and the accountability of doing the diet. it's all good saying, okay, I'm going to train today, because that's exciting. But okay, I've got to eat chicken and rice today and no cookies. That's hard. And that's where I come in and just, help people along and help them to stay accountable.
Yeah, it's a mindset. You just got to get yourself in the right mind that yeah, sure it's hard now, but it's going to achieve a goal later.
Exactly, exactly. It's that long-term goal that a lot of people struggle to maintain on the hard days.
So, as far as where our listeners can find you, where can they find you on social media and find some of the links for, try to get in touch with you for, the training and coaching as well?
So they can pretty much email me through Instagram. So there's the email link in my Instagram, or is there? I don't know. My Instagram account got deleted. So my new Instagram account, I actually don't think there's an email link, but they can just DM me on Instagram. Um, and then I also have a link tree where they can find all my social media links, uh, and contact me that way as well.
Excellent. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to chat with us, learn a little bit more about you and the things that you've done to achieve the goals that you have. And I think that it's very inspiring to hear your story.
Pleasure. Well, thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon. I know there's a huge time difference between us.
Yeah, I hope you have a lovely day. You've got the rest of the day to go.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
Have a
All right.
lovely
Well,
afternoon.
you too.
Okay.
Take care.
Down, down.